Hi, and welcome to this week's solo episode of the Guest List podcast. I'm your host, Steve Guest. And today's solo episode, I wanted to share with you a topic which, certainly in recruitment, it's often something that's discussed. It's part of the interview pre-qualification and support that we can potentially offer candidates and clients, where we discuss the fight between strengths and weaknesses. How honest are we? How do we portray that we have weaknesses? Do we even own up to having weaknesses? What's the advantage of being humble in our responses, and perhaps losing a sense of arrogance if we're saying that we're pretty perfect for the job role or the individual that they're looking for? I think if I think over time, strengths and weaknesses change. I think my strengths as an individual, I'm very focused, I'm very ambitious, I'm extremely motivated and driven to achieve goals. I constantly and consistently need targets, KPIs and goals that I'm looking to achieve, and I like to put things in place to get there. I'm diligent, I'm hardworking, I'm focused. I'm very logical in my approach. For those of you that have done disc profiles, I'm a very high C. High C individuals are very much focused on logic, on detail, on stats, on having the research, applying the logic and having the understanding before arriving at a decision, or even asking questions sometimes because you want to have more information than potentially is necessary to come to a conclusion or voice an opinion. I like order, I like process, I like procedure. I'm very calm in terms of my approach to most situations, even if it's heightened levels of noise or anxiety or problem. I tend to approach things in a very pragmatic and calm viewpoint. I have a very open and, I suppose, growth mindset in that I'm open to opportunity. I like to see the potential in everything. I tend to see the positive and the plus side in most situations, even when the outlook appears to be relatively bleak. Extremely analytical. I love a good spreadsheet, as some of you may know. And all of these are very much, I believe, on the strength side. The ability to continually learn and put myself in situations to develop, push that kind of personal development side. And as I say, a lot of what I do, I try to cram in a lot of effort and work each day to achieve the potential maximum that I can do. However, all of those strengths, all of those parts do have a flip side to them. And you could potentially argue that there are lots of weaknesses within those strengths, in that being process procedure, being heavily detailed, being analytical can sometimes make me a bit slower in terms of response. It can potentially mean that taking action is delayed. And that is comparing to perhaps somebody who is a high D on the disc profile, the dominant type character, which is generally a typical recruiter. So big, bold, confident individuals that are very good at relationship building, very out there in terms of taking action, not necessarily considering the detail or the potential risk of their decision or action, but actually they get to the end goal quicker, or they take action quicker, which means they might be a little bit faster than me, or certainly putting things forward on the front foot. So it can be a weakness. I can perhaps spend too much time worrying about the detail, whereas actually if you just get started, you can get things done and learn as you go. The ability to say no to certain situations or opportunities, having an open mindset, being able to spot the opportunity, sometimes mean that you take on too much, and therefore you're trying to do too many things, and you become a jack of all trades, master of none. Sometimes the fact that I need detail, I need research, I need logic to back up decisions or action taking, can bring a lack of confidence. Perhaps I'm not overly confident in where the process is taking me, or the discussion that I'm having. Maybe because of the lack of detail, I'm less willing to commit or take action. Maybe I'm worried about what other people might say if I do something where I can't back up why I committed that conversation, that sentence, that decision, that piece of action. Because I need detail. Sometimes perhaps I don't necessarily want to ask for help because I feel like I can go and read a book, watch a video, go to a seminar, go and do the training and do it myself. Perhaps the best decision there is to delegate to a specialist within that area or somebody that knows exactly what I'm looking to achieve. I would say over time, my character and my control has lessened a little bit. I would say going back maybe 4 or 5 years, I would be what you classed as maybe a perfectionist. I wanted everything to be dotted, everything to be crossed, and everything to fit perfectly into place before committing or taking action on anything. And I think over time, I've learned that if you're 70, 75% of the way there, and I've got enough in my favor or backing a piece of action or a decision, then I tend to press the go button. And I've become a little bit speedier, a little bit quicker in my decision making. I've learned the fact that it's okay to fail. It's okay to fall on your face. It's okay for things not to necessarily go to plan. I still have to work to my strengths to some degree, but perhaps I've found a balance between strengths and weaknesses. The important thing for me, I think, is to embrace your strengths because it's generally areas that you're good at and you feel positive about and you know that they add value. But it's equally important to embrace the weaknesses as well, because the weaknesses are sometimes the elements that help you manage risk. It helps manage the potential downside. It's the areas that potentially protect you from harm or from damage. But if you know the weaknesses and you're embracing them and you are self-aware and you're honest, but you've got the dedication to improve, then for me, I think that is the best place to be. I love my character traits. I've embraced them for a long time. A lot of you will know that my journey, certainly as a recruiter, as a salesperson, hasn't always been easy, as it is for a lot of people. We all have our own hurdles to kind of jump. But I think embracing the areas that you're strong at and pushing them forward and having belief that how and what you do is good and you do things in the right way, they're ethical, it's honest, it's hard work and it's proactive. And you either learn to delegate or get other people to help in the areas that you're weak, or you embrace them and think, okay, well, yes, they're weaknesses. I've acknowledged that I'm not so good in these areas, but what can I do to manage that? How can I improve them? What am I doing about making it so that they're not a weakness or they're not as weak as they are now? I always used to have a number of conversations with a previous director, and the statement was, if it looks like a duck, it probably is a duck. And what that refers to is that one of my big weaknesses, certainly from a leadership and a management perspective, was that I always had 100% belief in every single person that I've worked with, managed, mentored, coached. And sometimes I probably had more belief than the person that I was believing in to get it done and achieve the results they were targeted to do. And I think that was something that I had to learn, because I would invest time, I would invest a lot of effort into individuals that just didn't have the same level of belief in themselves as I had in them to go out and achieve the results that I believed that they could do. And the saying used to come back, if it looks like a duck, it probably is a duck. And I think that refers to the fact that you can only put so much effort into somebody else achieving something. If they don't believe it themselves, then it's never likely to materialize. That was definitely a weakness of perhaps my leadership and management style. And I think over time, I got better at that on the basis that if sometimes it just wasn't working, it was far better to have a more honest conversation relatively earlier on than to let it continue, with my belief potentially increasing and theirs decreasing. So I think strengths and weaknesses are really important. If you're listening to this and you've never sat there and really thought about your own strengths and weaknesses, and this isn't something to take to an interview necessarily, this is more for a kind of self-awareness examination of you, your abilities, your character traits, what makes you tick, what makes you you. And just simply the understanding of what areas can you potentially improve on? What are your genuine weaknesses? What do you feel uncomfortable with? How can you make them better? How can you improve them? Can you embrace your strengths and actually push them on even more so they become even more powerful in terms of who you are and what you're looking to achieve? And ultimately, I think if you embrace and you're comfortable with who you are as a person and you start to believe in the way that you do things and you are constantly looking for self-development, self-improvement, then I think the ability to build on that, build your confidence, increase and improve the weaknesses and push on for the strengths that you have, actually you become a more happier, more content individual because you're very much embracing your own personality and your own setup to go out and get and achieve what you need to achieve. Strengths and weaknesses for me are really important. And as recruiters, as salespeople, we do it on a daily basis when we're talking to candidates and clients, but perhaps rarely do we ever sit there and consider our own strengths and weaknesses. You know, the purpose of this podcast really is just to get you thinking, get you to perhaps go home this evening or on your lunch break today, just have a think and perhaps even write down some words and some areas that you feel are your strengths and weaknesses and start to embrace and work on areas to allow you to improve now and over time. I hope this podcast has been useful. If you've enjoyed it, please drop a comment, drop a review. Let me know what you think. If you've got ideas for solo podcast episodes or you've got individuals that you'd like for me to get onto the podcast and chat to, please get in touch, let me know. I look forward to sharing some more insights with you over the coming weeks. Take care and I'll see you soon.